Every great creative work stands on the shoulders of giants. Welcome to RetroInspection, where we examine and find out where the things we love today came from.
Let's talk about Dracula. There are the ideas that I go into this book mainly because of the things that I have watched. But what is Dracula? Give us a synopsis there.
Okay. Jonathan Harker is he's just this guy. He's a lawyer. This is the thing, Stephen King alludes to this, is like, he didn't do anything to bring this on. He's not being punished for any sin. He goes to Transylvania from London to close a real estate deal. That's it. So, his boss sends him. So basically, Count Dracula, this Carpathian noble, wants to come to London. He wants to buy this crumbling edifice called Carfax Abbey, and he's had a lot of stuff set up remotely. He's arranged for portage of all of these boxes that he's going to send, which we later find out are full of his native earth for him to sleep in. But some of this stuff, before any of this can take place, they've got to have a live signature on the document, and that's when Harker gets sent out, is to close all these deals. And basically Dracula keeps him a prisoner, drives him essentially insane, feeds on him a little, lets the three, they're known as the wives or brides of Dracula, they get to feed on him. Well, they're about to feed on him, and Dracula stops them. I take that back. And Dracula instead gives them a baby that he's picked up from the nearby village. Then we get, as we see in the most recent film, there's a little bit about the Demeter, the ship that is going to carry all of Dracula's possessions to London, that shows up with everybody on board dead. And the only thing that's on the ship appears to be like a large dog or wolf that immediately, as soon as it hits the ground, it runs off the ship and into parts unknown. Of course, we figure out later that's Dracula in disguise, because he can turn himself into a wolf. He can turn himself into a bat. These may have been things.
And Mist.
Yeah, and Mist, precisely. Yeah, because Mist figures later, and we get that later on. These are all powers that like all vampires, this shape-shifting stuff. And, this may be one of the things that Stoker largely kind of came up with on his own, because it's not the part of most legends, the shape-shifting thing. So Carfax Abbey is located next to a lunatic asylum in a large private house run by a guy named Dr. Seward. Dr. Seward knows, the family of Harker's fiance, Mary's. There's some other guys hanging around. Quincy Morris, who's like I don't think he's literally a Texan. I think he's just sort of an American Westerner who's visiting London, and he's kind of folksy and stalwart and stuff. Arthur Holmwood is another guy who's like a suitor of Mina Murray, who understands. He's backed off now that she is actually betrothed to Harker, and Lucy Westenra, who's like Mina's best friend. And the first one, once Dracula makes landfall and moves into Carfax Abbey, she's the first one to get vampirized. And this is where you get the part of the myth where a vampire has to be invited in. That becomes important because one of the other major characters is a maniac in the asylum named Renfield, which is a guy that either collects fly and insect corpses or sometimes eats them. He wants to eat higher animals like dogs and cats. He's obsessed with blood. He's the guy.
Save Renfield, because I have a specific question.
Okay, what Renfield?
Yeah.
What about him?
From my perceptions that I gained from other popular culture, Renfield had a more active role in those films. He was like, or he became Dracula's strongman, Dracula's henchman. But he's
Yeah,
very different in this novel, and in fact, he's quite. I mean, aside from his, gruesome habits and his longing to, eat people, I think
right.
eventually he admits to it that
Yeah,
he's almost a sympathetic character.
I mean he's a victim, but he's not chosen it. He's not chosen at random. I mean, he's a guy that Dracula can influence by remote mental control. But it's I don't know. Yeah, he's not a good guy. Like I said, not a victim. He certainly his predilections make him the kind of person, uh, and his actions. We also see, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, he actually does want to kill things. He does want to consume things, and yeah, he is, at least in his mind, working his way up the evolutionary ladder to humans. I don't think he doesn't actually kill anybody. That's not for lack of desire to do so. He, I mean, I guess we'll get to this at one point. Um, Everyone groups together for safety against Dracula and moves into the rooms in Seward's house that are not part of the asylum.
Well, to bring this together in a modern terms,
Right.
he Dr. Seward and who is actually Renfield's doctor at the insane asylum.
Yeah.
And Von Helsing, his mentor, professor, and really the hero of the book. They assemble all these characters into a fighting team to go against Dracula, basically.
Yeah. Your so-called fearless vampire hunters.
Or the Avengers.
Right.
or the Justice League, right?
Well, yeah, and maybe you see a bit of that in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
right?
So, once all those people are in one place, kettling all of these poor schmucks is like Dracula's the guy in the meme behind the tree suddenly when that happens, because nobody thinks about the fact that you have to invite a vampire into the house or the vampire can't come in, he can't get you. Well, of course, goddamn Renfield's down in his cell, and all it takes is an occupant of the house. Doesn't have to be the owner, does not have to be a responsible, mentally competent party. And Renfield's like, yeah, shit, come on in, buddy. Yeah, no, they're all upstairs. And that's when Dracula starts eating the ladies.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's we're not going to ruin, we're not going to ruin a 120-year-old book. So
right, almost 130.
Okay, yeah. Correct me in my math.
No, I'm just saying, yeah. Look, man. If you haven't read it by now, or you haven't seen the movie,
or the multiple references throughout popular culture,
this is yeah. This is not on us.
Like, subscribe, repost, share everywhere. To see what else we're up to, visit xynobooks.com, xenobooks.com.